Okay, now you start talking to her. You're seducing her a little bit. You guys order some drinks up. Okay, now she starts go deeper. Shirt comes off, her clothes come off. Now y'all in the bed. Now y'all are tussling it. Now go deeper. Then you wake up the next morning.
Lose yourself.
Would you be happy if your life was on film and it just captured that moment?
Damn, that's a good one.
Because you got to sit there, and that's either the death of the ego, or it's gonna light up a new you. Because you're gonna be like, ooh.
I would say, this is gonna sound crass, but I have to say it that way. Can men be faithful? There seems to be this crazy consensus. It's kind of a rare thing, and all the good ones are taken. But maybe there is a correlation between what you're thinking and what you're attracting. I don't know, just maybe. The men that I know are wonderful people. They are all in great relationships. So I invited two of my friends, Leon Cohen and Delva Michel, who have both been in long-standing marriages and are faithful men. I also invited a young man, Justin Bradford, because of his solid philosophy and what he believes. I appreciate you guys so much for joining the conversation today. If it's your first time, make sure you hit the follow button so you could know when the episodes are released every Monday. Welcome to Manhood Matters. Let's get right to it. So being here again, I appreciate you guys. Leon, back with us. I definitely wanted you here for this conversation. You're actually the first person I thought about when I thought about this particular subject.
Okay.
Delva, I had to call you and ask you if you were qualified to have this conversation. And Justin back in the living room with us. So I kind of know where your heart is and kind of what your philosophy is, but it'll be interesting to get your take on this as well. I talk to a lot of women, and the consensus is there are no good men out there, right? We hear that a lot. The other thing that we hear is men cannot be faithful, right? There's infidelity. If given the opportunity, that men will step out. And I thought, that's not what I've seen. I've seen a lot of that, obviously, right? I don't live under a rock. I've seen a lot of it, but that's not who I am, and that's not what I've seen. You talked about this, Justin, before. We are the average of the 5 people we hang out with. I guess if you hang out around a bunch of guys, that's really what they're about. You'd be tempted. But if you're hanging around men who have the same mindsets, governed by the same laws, then it's really hard for you to do that and brag about it. Mm-hmm. So I want to start with you, Leon. The reason I thought about you first is I never forgot this. I had just become a manager at ADT. So we were working there. I want to say the year is 2010. Okay. We went on some convention or whatever, right?
Yeah, I remember now.
And we were in Savannah, Georgia. Mm-hmm. That I remember because I was in Huntsville, Alabama, and I had to travel all the way to Savannah. And I remember being in the car. We were going out to dinner. Myself, Leon, and some other dude. We saw this woman, by any standard, was a beautiful woman. And the dude made a comment. And I made a comment. And Leon didn't make a comment. So, I forgot what the question was. Maybe we asked you for your opinion or if you'd be interested. And I can't even paraphrase, but I remember that the gist of it was you came back with saying, I have zero interest in even looking at other women because I'm a married man. That kind of shit doesn't interest me. I'm not distracted by it. How long you been married?
18 years. It'll be 18 years in July.
So 2010 was what for you then?
That was year number 2.
Just year number 2. And that was your mindset. So talk to us about what your philosophy is. What is the compelling drive behind that? And what's keeping you on the straight path?
So the biggest thing for me, what has evolved is I told you, like I said, this is my second marriage. And I wouldn't say quote unquote unfaithful in the first marriage, but there was a difference. What changed for me is that after I divorced, as I mentioned in the previous podcast, that was probably the hardest thing that I've ever had to do in my life because it was admitting that I had failed. And it was one of the first times that I ever had to admit failure. I mean, I've had challenges and circumstances I've had to work through before, but not a failure. Mm-hmm. And not a breaking of a promise. So biggest thing for me is that when I got married the second time, I said marriage is a choice, right? You can choose to be married. You can choose to not be married. Monogamy is a choice, right? I could be single tomorrow and go sleep with as many women as I want to.
Correct.
But if I've pledged my life to this one and I've pledged fidelity to this one, then that is a promise that I need to uphold.
But biologically, we have a certain need, we have a certain desire, we lust after women. In this society, right, we live in a monogamous society, and many societies are not. And what they're saying in those societies is we're going against, our natural desire. So what's keeping you from deviating from that path? Or do you totally feel like, is it totally natural for you? Is it effortless, or
no? It's not.
work?
Of course, it's not effortless. I would be a robot. But the thing about it is this: you will see beautiful women, beautiful men all the time, depending on, like I say, if you're a woman, you're going to see a beautiful man.
I'm glad you clarified that shit real quick.
An attractive, right? An attractive man. If you're a man, an attractive woman, right? You're going to see beautiful people all the time. You're not oblivious to it. But I have tried, just as Delvin said, not to put myself in situations where I'm going to compromise the principle of marriage, right? So I don't hang out in the clubs. Do I get approached by women? Yes, I have been several times. But the thing that has kept me is that vow and that promise of that it will do more damage in for however long that little time is that you have sex with this other person than to
9 minutes.
Yeah, whatever. Depends on who you are.
That's a record.
Right.
Speak for yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Depends on depends on who you are.
For yourself.
Yeah,
I'll be out there for 2 hours.
I gotta talk to you.
Who are you trying to please?
Hey, me.
So whatever that amount of time may be, is it worth the residual of it? I say no. I got to manage 2 relationships.
Oh, it's so much fucking effort.
Yeah, and
oh my God.
what if it's bad now?
You gotta try to get out.
Well, I mean, yeah, try to get out, or I always got to look over my shoulder that I can run out to her in the street and she can say, "I had your man." Right?
Not too many. Start calling your name. Not too many brothers named Leon, bro.
Right.
So it's you.
So I mean, when you weigh the pros and cons of it, it's just, for me, it's just never been worth it.
Yeah.
Okay, I see her, I acknowledge her. She's fine. She ain't the first fine woman that I've ever seen in my life. She won't be the last. She doesn't need that acknowledgement. And the reason why I'm prefacing being quote unquote monogamous first time versus the second time, the first time I may have actually entertained a conversation and, but the difference between me at 28 and me at 35 is that growth to know there is more damage to be done by entering that conversation.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
It's not. Yeah. You start weighing the risk of it. So like I said, monogamy for me is a choice.
Delva.
Yes, sir.
How long you been married, brother?
19 years, but we've been together 22.
Okay, I was about to say, why are you confused? 19 years. That's a beautiful thing. So, question that I asked you when I called you was a very personal question. You want to share? Do you remember what I asked?
If I ever stepped out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You comfortable with answering that question?
Absolutely.
All right, go for it.
I have emotionally cheated on my wife once.
Break that down for us.
Okay.
How do you mean by emotionally
And
cheated
to
on her?
me, it wasn't, but because she saw it as that, so I accepted it because she wasn't comfortable with it. There's a young lady that I know in Connecticut. She was going through a tough time in her marriage. She reached out to me for advice. So we were talking every night, mostly on Yahoo Messenger. That's how old we are.
Damn. I didn't know that was a thing.
I listen, I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't even know what that is.
Yahoo Messenger.
Messenger.
It's still a thing, actually.
But why you did like this with your fingers? Because didn't you have to be on a computer?
A typewriter. Bro. Yeah, it was a typewriter.
I mean, we started on this, but we had.
Oh, there was a messenger. Okay,
absolutely.
gotcha.
It took a lot of time with the T9 keyboard, but
Oh my God, teen high keyboard.
Over the head.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes, and then we got comfortable.
Yeah.
The conversation started to go into the night, but it's always about her and her husband. One night, I was in bed, and my wife woke me up. I think it was like 3 a.m. And she said, "I'm sorry, I don't. Your phone keep going off. I don't have a lock on my phone. We never have passwords and all that. She doesn't check my phone. I don't check hers.
Right.
But she felt the need because he was going. And the first message she sent me was she called me Poppy.
Where is she from?
She was from Connecticut. She's Haitian, but she was born here.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, so yeah.
So she's not Latina.
But Haitians will call you Papi too.
Right.
Yeah. And it ain't cool.
That's why she hooked me up. She was like, what's happening? Who's this? I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, all right, this is what it is.
So you explained to her what it was.
Right then and there. And I'm like, you know what? It stops now. Picked up the phone, called her. And I say, hey, it's my fault. I'm not blaming you. But we can't never talk again because my wife is not comfortable with it. And I understand why. I wouldn't be comfortable either. I'm like, I hope you understand that. She was like, no, I respect that. I'm like, my wife is listening. No, you don't have to say anything, but know that we can't talk anymore. That was the last time. As far as physically stepping out, never. I never had the need to feel like I need something else. And then I always said to my wife, to myself as well, I never want to put my wife in a situation where she feels like she has to be uncomfortable, not even knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
Never.
It's funny you mentioned the thing about the phones, but there is such freedom. And I got to say, in my last relationship, I was married for 10 years. Now I've been married. We're on our 3rd year. In both relationships, I've been the example of monogamy. Even when I had reasons to kind of feel that, as we mentioned about the last podcast, we talked about, is it ever the woman's fault? I could have conjured up in my head a million reasons exactly why. Well, this is why there was the need or whatever it was. But I always felt like if I have to get to that point, I don't need to be in that relationship. So going over to you, young man, what is your philosophy on monogamy and fidelity? Do you believe you can be in a monogamous relationship? Is that the goal, or what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, like I'm very biblical as far as the courting of a relationship and how to do so. In Ephesians, it talks about like how to make your wife holy by washing her with the word and all that, and instructing her on how to be a good wife and appears beautiful, but not externally. But when it talks about a man and a woman, it obviously talks about two becoming one in the flesh, but more importantly in Kings, where it's referring to Solomon, who had 700 wives, was the richest man. I mean, he was like the grand of all grand. I don't remember the exact verse, but I think it was in 2 Kings where it says, young men or young kings, do not spend your strength on women, the one who ruined kings. And it's a very intentional word right there where he says women, not woman. And he's singular. It's plural for a reason because, I mean, even dating, it's like, those DMs get hit up. Like you talked about, the DMs is what they use now. Like there's options, which gives me the opinion of who to interact with and who to take stuff from and who to not tolerate, which is a good thing, right? That I don't have to settle and that I can have options to court out. And it's not like just because she's beautiful, now I'm instantly going to be attracted to just her. But even to that extent, it's like I know when I do get into that serious relationship that I am going to be a monogamous man. But it's a lot of the principles that are already being said before me, even with you just said, as far as the comfort of not needing to worry about your phone, as far as what he talked about, not needing to even emotionally cheating, right? It's like doing to others as they would do unto you. It's like I wouldn't want my woman talking to some dude and like crying about our relationship because a shoulder to cry on turns into a to ride on, you know? Right. That's
what?
A shoulder to cry on turns into a to ride on.
Ride on.
That's
I forgot how biblical you are keeping that shit clean, but I appreciate
trying my PR, you know, trained. But no, in regards to...
Oh, and that's very true, by the way.
Very.
It's extremely true. I speak from experience, I will tell you.
But to what you said also, as far as just like going and learning to keep your eyes to yourself, your emotions to yourself because of maturity, I've been through it too, because like maturity comes from wisdom. Wisdom comes from experience. I've been around long enough to know what's right from what's wrong. And if I even open the door for opportunity, like it talks about in Proverbs heavily on just the ways of a seductive woman and how honey would drip from her lips, basically saying that their speech is better than ours. But in listening to that, you are an ox bringing yourself to the slaughterhouse, knowing that at the end of your life, when your flesh and body are spent, you will groan and say, how my heart hated discipline and I spurned correction. So like, if you only look for lust, you're never going to find somebody worth loving, because love is it's a symbol, but the substance is sacrifice, right? Everybody wants to love or be loving, but nobody's really willing to sacrifice the lust part of them to actually show that they're loving, show that they're faithful, show that they're in it for the long run. So as far as when that woman does come and I choose willingly, like you are the one that I'm happy to settle down with, not settle for, but settle down, then it's a matter of communication, boundaries, and knowing what we're actually trying to achieve here. Because I'm not going to be the secondary mom in my relationship. Like, I'm not the goo goo gaga type of this and that. These are the roles. Eve was made from the rib to be a helper. It talks about this a lot in 1 Timothy as well, as far as a woman's role versus a man's. And if a man is worthy of submitting to, what his standards should be, how he should lead, how he should love. And because I'm going to be the man that's following those principles and I've first already submitted to Christ, it's like, I would expect that woman to follow in line and submit to the man.
Would you say it's easy? That's not actually. It's never easy.
Easier.
Right? It's easier if you're principled in that way and you're rooted in the Bible in that sense. Because I'm not, right? So would you say, I'm a believer? Obviously, I'm surrounded by 3. And Leon just frowned, looked at me like, "Nigga, what?" No, I mean, I was raised around it. I mean, it was all around me, and I read the Bible. That's another conversation. But I will tell you that I'm very spiritual, but I'm not as rooted in the Word as you are. Not nearly. I don't know too many people who are, by the way, in terms of like knowing your passages well and you can quote them, but not just to say some wild dumb shit, but you actually use them in a way that it has everything to do with what we're talking about, and it makes sense and it applies in real life. I think if most people use it that way, it would be better received as opposed to just quoting it just like nonsensically. Do you find that it's easier for you to dismiss that temptation?
Absolutely, and I'll say why. Because it became easier once I stopped believing in God, but started to know God. Like, there's a difference between reading the Bible and learning the Bible, because I treat it like a study guide. Underline everything, circle it. I mean, every day at 4 a.m, I'm posting a passage out of it. Every day I'm texting 10 of my friends and my accountability group, my verse of the day and the interpretation. Every single day, or even today, like at 7 o'clock, we'll have our righteous reset, and it's probably 75 men from ages 25 to 50, and that's a group that I lead at 22, to where people come to me to get biblical guidance on how to righteously reset themselves. Because with me in my past, especially in Cashville, Nash Vegas, whatever you want to call it, I was a player, serial player. I'm talking about Australian cattle dog. I'm talking about I'm the light skin on Tinder gold, 500 matches in 2 weeks, and it's over. It's like sushi date. All right, we're going to play Jenga. All right, loser got a back massage. All right. Same thing.
Yeah.
Lost myself to lust, the biggest demon. Lost my community, but felt like I was gaining financial freedom. So at the time, externally, I was winning, but inside I was losing. And to have the awareness to internalize that was everything. Because then when I start to know God, it's like that moral compass, and the conviction is what pops out. Because what I would call my spiritual gifting is discernment and the ability to take what's big and scary and make it very simple and warming, to where even if you're ungodly, you feel guilt. All these things that we have when we don't even know God, when you know God, it only heightens itself.
Yeah.
So like with my past self, it wasn't that I made a decision, it's that I felt disgust.
I'm not going to ask you how you would answer to that, but those guys have lived much longer. They've been in long relationships. How have you maintained this fidelity to your marriage, to your woman, even when you could have easily could have gotten away with it? You as a traveling musician, you're gone a lot.
Weeks at a time.
So there's no like, oh, they'll know. I mean, you're all the way in freaking Madagascar and, on the east coast of Africa doing a concert. If someone meets you, I've always asked men this question. I said, if you could just go ahead and be with someone, never even know the person's name. They don't have any way to contact you. They don't even know your name. They just see you on stage, they like you, whatever setting. Would you do it knowing that there is no way this ever follows you anywhere?
Obviously, I wouldn't, because I have not.
Right.
And then those situations present themselves all the time. It goes back to the work. I don't want men to take this and run with it and make excuses. Oh, well, that's the way we wired. But you have to do the work for yourself. I'm going to tell you, one way I keep myself out of trouble is to never, I think you said that too, don't put yourself in a position where you can't get out. That's one. That's why I don't go out and I cut some friends out, because like you say, you are the average of your friends, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So if you know your friends in a certain way, cut that.
And that's the majority of all these musicians anyway.
Absolutely.
And I hate to just put them all in a box, but shit, I've lived it. I know.
That's why, if they're listening right now, they'll know. Because that's the way I am. There's a lot of guys you see I'm playing with, they'll never be to my house. We never go out for drinks. We'll never go anywhere. But I'm going to tell you one thing. If you don't do the work, there is no way you could be faithful because of the way we are as men. There's an estimated 8 to 11 million of animal species out there, just on land and ocean. Mm-hmm. Only 11 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 11, that actually have life partners. Even then, they step out if the female can't give birth or the male have a lower gene that the female wants. So there's really none of them that's really monogamous. So which means that's just the way we're wired. But if you do the work, if you respect your principle, you set some principle and stick to them, you could do it. And then it becomes easier. Beautiful women are all going to be around, right?
Yeah.
I mean, wherever you go. There's this club that I'm playing in tonight. There's 3 bartenders, beautiful people. It's funny, recently one came to me and said, "Why are you so mean?" He was like, "You've been coming here for about 2 years. You never asked me for my name." If I need a drink, I come to the bar and order a drink. I don't need to know your name.
And it's so environmental. I always give people this question because it makes them like sit down on the way we're hardwired. And I ask it to a girl actually who says, "Well, no, I got guy friends, but they're just friends." First, I'll make them call that guy friend and say, "Hey, I'm feeling for you. Would you want to see me too?" And they fold.
Immediately.
But even away from that, even just like off the principle, I go, okay, a Lamborghini, or we'll call it a Rolls Royce. If you lock that car, you would trust that it locks.
Absolutely.
Everybody would trust that you click the,
Yep.
It's a nice $300,000 car. It's going to lock. Would you park it in the hood?
Oh, no.
Probably not.
But you trust the locks.
Exactly.
Because the environment is dangerous.
Yes.
I trust my girl. I trust myself. But I know the environment is dangerous. So why would I put my nice, most valuable asset, my time that I've spent building with this person, the energy I've connected over, the foundation and the plan that we're trying to accomplish, why would I go take it into the hood for one night, even though I still trust the locks?
Yes,
That
sir.
is good. That is very good. Are we then saying, based on that analogy you just made there, that, environment is obviously plays a big factor, but could we not transcend beyond those temptations regardless of environment?
You could, but it's more tempting.
Absolutely.
Why would you open the door to the devil when you see that he's knocking and you can look through the peephole?
Absolutely.
Let's see. So 18 years, have there not been situations that have presented themselves or have at least been tempting? Absolutely, yeah.
Oh.
Well, how tall are you? 6'2", 6'3"? Because that seems to be on
Almost
everybody's
6'4", yeah.
almost 6. So that's everybody's list, right?
Yeah.
What are you, 6'1", Justin?
I'm 6 foot.
6 foot,
We'll
6
call
foot,
it 6'1".
6'3".
I got some boots on.
Hey, I'm 5'7". It's available to me. So
You know what I'm saying? Same, bro. You know what I'm saying? So you meet one of those, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you definitely, you walk in the room, you meet one of those criteria that the first thing these women say, ask them to describe the list of they want. First thing they say is some shallow shit like, well, you gotta be over 6 feet tall. I'm like, yeah, that's why you're about to get hurt. Because you said nothing of substance. That should be on the list if that's what you like, but it can't be the first thing on the list. But go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
No, so I'm just saying, there are, I'm not Superman. and that was the thing that came out of the first divorce, is to realize that vulnerability, that you're not Superman, that you do fail, that you do have frailties, that you do. And that was the hardest part for me in that first divorce, was admitting that failure, admitting that I was not the person that in my mind I thought I was. And that was tough because you have to confront you and the image of who you thought you were, and you realize that you are not. But where I was going with that in the 18 years is that, so you met me at year 2. Have there been times over that 16-year period that there have been vulnerabilities? Of course. And probably for her, but I never want to know it. I would never ask her. But what has sustained it is God and his grace. When those situations occur or have occurred, something happens to make them not go forward or further than what they...
Just an initial thought.
Right.
That initial quick, fleeting
or even
thought.
a conversation, right? You might be in conversation with somebody and it turns left and you're like, oh.
you got to remove yourself.
Yeah, you're like, uh-oh. It just starts out as a friendly deal and then it becomes something that is going to go left.
So, it's interesting. When I was much younger, I really had almost nothing to pull from. There were no mentors. There were no dudes around me. All the guys that I hung out were older than me. Mm-hmm. And they would end up looking up to me because I had no one to look up to. You know, I would be friends with guys who were 10 years older than I was, and they were all doing dumb shit, including not just doing, but bragging about the fact that they had many women and things like that. So that's what I saw. I kind of thought that's just the way it was, how it was supposed to be. You know, and I had a conversation with one guy one time, a long, long time ago. This dude was just roughly about my age. And he kind of alluded to what you talked about, Justin, is how would do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The conversation from another woman came up, and he basically said, why would I ever need to do that? And they weren't married, they were just dating. But his whole mindset was, if she would ever do that to me, and I found out, he goes, I think about that pain and discomfort, and I'm not willing to do that to someone else.
That's same.
You know,
that's been a stopping factor for me as well.
Yeah,
that is somebody who's done the work.
Yeah, and at the time we're talking about like a very young person at that point. He might have been 20, 21. You know what I mean? And this is, you know, I was around that age then. Yeah, it's just kind of like Justin here. But you know, that wasn't my environment. That was the exception, right? So in my first marriage, that marriage was damned from the beginning. You know, it was a lot of turmoil, a lot of fights. And again, like I said, she is not a bad person per se. You know, it was just, we weren't meant to be together. You know, we kind of fought. I got to tell you, like in a month, in 30 days, we might have 2 good days in those 30 days.
Sheesh.
And we're talking hell. And you knew me then. I was miserable, right? It was just really, really bad. Again, no shade on her. It's just what it was. When the opportunity presented itself, I took advantage of it, and I never felt good about it. It was something that I thought made sense. It was almost something rebellious in the sense to where I was disrespectful to where I didn't even need to hide it. I remember feeling like I had lost myself. Like there was a sense of like hopelessness. There was a sense of just, I don't know who I am. What do you say to someone, or how do you help guide a man who is struggling with that and that is not rooted in the church?
That's something good. I actually like what he speaks on doing the work. Like last year when I talked to that coach and he said he couldn't coach me, I was like, because you said that I need just one session. And he was like, no. I was like, yes. And then I pitched my price at him. He accepted it. He was like, you know what? Fine. It's February 1st. It'll be Black History Month. I got you. It's like, I love it. Now, the only thing that he actually told me from the first call he was interested in diving deeper as far as my perspective was my outlook on women and my relationship dynamic and how I view that and what I'm looking for right now, all that good stuff. So in my conversation with him, there was one thing that I took out of it, which was fantastic. And the second thing is what somebody could do in that situation you just talked about. The first thing that he helped me realize, which a lot of high-performing men will encounter, is a leakage in the way that they can compartmentalize themselves. So like as an ambitious man, I'm ambitious all around. Spiritually, I want to get better. Physically, I want to get better. Financially, mentally, relationally, I always want to get better. What that means is I push myself to a point of exhaustion. I see what the bar looks like, but the next time I go at it, what do I want? More. And I would do that all around, but it would leak over with my relationships, meaning I would talk to a girl. Okay, she's funny, she's pretty. She's not that smart. Okay, next date. She's funny, she's pretty, she got to be smart. Okay, she's smart. She has a bad family relationship. Well, that's my new bar. Next date. Funny, pretty, smart, good family, bunch of exes or a bunch of, and it would keep on stacking to where I was trying to like almost craft this perfect girl when it's not about, it's not perfection, it's progression. So it's finding a girl that is compatible to the things that I don't want, but she's willing to work on the things that I want out of sacrifice and developing herself. So when he gave me that awareness of where I was falling short as a man just by conversating with him. This is not a licensed therapist. This is a guy that played for the Kansas City Chiefs, had his career cut short, and now he's in Miami doing coaching. And he was a guy that told me he couldn't coach me, but gave me the best coaching I've ever received. Because that awareness is what's going to help me actually build a foundation with the right woman and bring fruit out of it. But now the second thing that he told me on that call, because he's very like deeply connected spiritually, not biblical at all. But then the guy had me walk through the desire to where it could either lead you to darkness or light. If it leads you to light, that's going to be something scary. If it leads you to dark, good job. You had the death of the ego. Meaning, if you said, okay, what if I did holler at that girl? Or if you said, what if I did go to that bartender? Well, now take it farther, because that's just the surface. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're 4 drinks deep. Okay, she says something. Okay, you get her name. Okay, you get her. Now go deeper. Okay, she sends you a text when you're leaving. Okay, she says there's a hotel right here. Okay, you meet her at the hotel, right? And now you get the room, and she's right there behind you. The security cameras. Now you're on camera with her, and then you go up to the room and go deeper. Okay, now you start talking to her. You're seducing her a little bit. You guys order some drinks up. Okay, now she starts go deeper. Shirt comes off, her clothes come off. Now y'all in the bed. Now y'all are tussling it. Now go deeper. Then you wake up the next morning.
Lose yourself.
Would you be happy if your life was on film and it just captured that moment?
Damn, that's a good one.
Because you got to sit there, and that's either the death of the ego, or it's gonna light up a new you. Because you're gonna be like, ooh.
I always say, this is going to sound crass, but I have to say it that way because I don't know how else to say it. Whenever you're with someone you don't want to be with physically, you said go deeper, and you talk about the next day, the next morning. The second sex is over, you realize what you've done.
Immediately.
You immediately don't want to be there. Mm-hmm. You're immediately talking about, get off me, I miss my wife.
But now what if you did, though? What if you got done, right? And this is the light side of it. Now what if you enjoyed it? What if you wanted to stay for some little cuddles afterwards, and then you wanted to go get breakfast in the morning, and then you wanted to stay in because now you're seeing the light that got brought to your darkness. Because Gabe, he's the guy that leads our Bible study. He said this so good in our call last Sunday. He said, secrecy is the oxygen for addiction. Secrecy. Mm-hmm. So you have all these desires that you stuff in your closet, which die off like skeletons, but in reality, they just come to life when every other light goes off and nobody's looking. Because I always say this, your testimony comes from your test when you're lonely. That's when you get tempted. That's when you get tempted. That's when we get tempted, when we're lonely. Because that's when we're starting to see all these other things, and we're not seeing it for what it is, because now we have nobody holding us accountable. Now we're actually tested.
A lot of men who cheat, man, they're not even lonely, bro. I mean,
they can be, and not if they're cheating.
They're just alone.
Someone's there. Yeah.
Yeah, in a sense, right? I mean, we're talking about people who have, at least on the surface, I mean, you don't know what's going on inside someone's home, but we're talking about someone who has what seems to be a good marriage. There's a great person at home. Mm-hmm. And, the fact that she's a wonderful woman, you can see that, right? Let's say I know the couple, right? You can see this person's wonderful in every way. The person's a good mother, a good provider for the family. You take care of them. They're the backbone of the family, and all that is wonderful. And then you're on a business trip with this dude, and we're hanging out, and we're in Vegas, and next thing you know, a dude is not looking, but if it presents itself, they take advantage of it, totally detached from the reality of it. And in their mind, long gone, goodbye, it doesn't matter, it happened, it's in the past, it doesn't have any residual effect. And I argue that it does, right? It does have a residual impact on you. That energy that is exchanged is one thing. What you're bringing home to your wife is another. Mm-hmm. Because there's you're having sex with this person. A lot of times it's going to be unprotected. Even if it is protected sex, you're still taking a chance. There's none of that shit is 100%. So you have all these different things. I guess what I'm getting at is you have these guys who are just like, the excuse is the gauge that governs them. I can't help it, I'm a guy. It's just what guys do. Like, what do you say to that? Like,
I'm sorry, I think it goes back to what Justin said in the previous podcast where, men are naturally divided into hunters and gatherers. Our instinct is to hunt. And so for a lot of guys, it's just the thrill of the chase, and you catch and you release. Sometimes the hunter gets captured by the game and you can't release. You have to be cognizant as a man in order to stay monogamous of that hunter instinct, because it never goes away. Is it ever enough? When is it enough?
I have, I never get into these debates with these women because I don't know them personally. These are people that I'll see on social media, but there's this belief that men overall cannot be faithful. They are cheaters, and it's just what it is. You just have to deal with it. Oftentimes I want to kind of scream out and be like, what are you guys doing? You're taking a subset of a group, right? A tiny, tiny sliver of it, because this is what you are attracting. Cat Williams said it best one time. Like, you have to figure out what it is about you that attract these no good ass men. And they keep attracting the same men. They don't realize it's the same man. Different face, but it's the same man. You just keep bringing told you. There's a reason that women who are in abusive relationships tend to end up in another abusive relationship. You come out of one, you end up into another and another and another until you fix something about yourself so you no longer attract that. So if you attract a man that cannot be faithful to you, that's just something that you're doing. Again, not your fault, but you're attracting that type of person into your environment. And then you go and generalize and say, all men are cheaters. No man can be faithful, and et cetera, et cetera. So I want to push back and can you guys talk about that and about like the dudes that you know and the men in your circle and things like that, and the people who've had successful marriages or successful relationships, how are they doing? Because they're not the exception. That is the rule. I believe the cheaters are the exception.
No, that's super wrong though, as far as them saying men are cheaters, because the difference, in my opinion, from a boy to a man, because there's no true indicator of when a boy becomes a man, at least like in this lifetime. There's just no, and you can't say 21 or.
I have one.
What?
So this is something that Jim Rohn said. The transition to adulthood is when you accept and you take full responsibility for your life.
Yeah.
Once you do that, then you become an adult. It's not an age.
That makes you an adult. What makes you a man, and what I'm going to say from listening to all this and just like analyzing character here is like, what makes you a man is when it's bigger than you. That's what makes you a man. Because a boy, it's not bigger than him. It's just him and his lust and his desires and his goals and his. But a man is looking for the future. He's looking for the family. He's looking for faith. He's looking for all these things that are much bigger than just the self.
So it's like anything else, right? It's like healing. It's like success. None of these things are a destination. They are a journey. So monogamy itself, based on what you guys are saying, this is something you continually practice on a daily basis, and you make decisions that align with that so that you're not ever in a situation where...
And it's hard, bro.
That's what she said.
It's hard.
Yeah, I've never been an alcoholic, but you got to treat it like a recovering alcoholic.
Yes.
Because the thing is, you never recovered. Once you get comfortable, you get the next drink, you undo 20 years of sobriety.
Correct.
And I have a question for you guys on the panel, because we use that a lot as men. Do you think sex is a need?
Shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do.
Well,
I do, and the reason why,
in his wisdom, he probably has this probably a trick ass question, so be careful.
No. It's just no. I'm gonna let you answer first, but it's not a trick question.
Yeah, you answer it and I'll answer.
Yeah.
I think it is a need because it is an instinct that you don't suppress, right? So that tells me it's a need, right? So even priests who vow celibacy sometimes break it and can't suppress it, right? They might try to mask it by messing with a little boy, but you still had sex.
God
right?
Damn, you went there.
Well, what I'm saying, this is why I went there, Steph. Right? You know me. I'm gonna keep it 100.
Yeah.
They mask it because it is a boy or a male, that they don't consider it the same as breaking their vow to God because it wasn't with a woman.
Side note, that's why I think sometimes religion is so obtuse, because you're tricking God.
You're tricking yourself. You're tricking God.
That's what. Is that your mindset? That's
Tricking
what you
yourself.
think.
Yeah, you're 100%.
No, I'm saying you thinking you're tricking God. Like,
So am I lying? Am I lying in
That's
that?
out of human concern where evil is rooted. Yeah.
Yeah, they will say that they have sinned, but they didn't break their vow because it was not with a woman.
yeah, great job,
Right?
on the technicality.
So to answer your question, it is a basic instinct.
I think if you're approaching it from the deeper context, or what is it really for? You can say it's to procreate, but I would have to disagree with that too. Where I don't think it's just for that sole purpose.
No, I'm asking.
Okay, you're not saying it is.
I'm not saying.
Yeah,
I'm
so
just really
for me, it's
the
a way that we connect in the most intimate way with another human being that we deeply, deeply care about, that we love. Now, we waste a lot of our spiritual energy with the people we don't care about when we just go and sleep around and mess with other people. But there's a reason it doesn't feel bad, right? If it was just like, hey, this is a chore, you are to have children, this is when you do it, this is how it's done, etc., etc. But our society and previous societies have been collapsing from day one because of sex. So for men, we are governed by it. I don't think there's no bones about it, man. I think that it is an absolute need
It's
for us.
It's a need and it's a basic instinct.
Biologically, I think it's a need for us, yeah. And sperm counts is out of control.
So
and
I
it's-
think that I'm sorry. I'm gonna let you answer as well. Sorry, before
I think it's a need, but the timing and the frequency is a want.
I think that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
If we think of it as a need, although it is, and then that's why a lot of guys say, "Well, we have need. You're not giving it to me. I'm going to get somewhere else." If it's just a want, all of a sudden it's not that important anymore. And I think that's part of doing the work on yourself.
So I mean, as early as 10, 11, 12, 13, young men get erections.
Oh, for sure.
Right? They also, I mean, hell, even as an adult, you may have an erotic or wet dream where you ain't even having intercourse, but because you're thinking about
Guilty.
it. Right. Because you're thinking about it, it is a natural instinct and release, right? In your sleep. So that's why I say it goes back to me as a fundamental need, because it's an urge and it's an instinct that even when you try to suppress it or when you haven't, quote unquote, brought it into your mind as an existence, it still comes and it still happens as a natural release.
Yeah, you don't have to even think about
I'm
it.
not disagreeing at all.
It thinks about you.
Correct.
It pops up in your mind.
Yeah.
No.
There are things.
I don't disagree.
You know,
it's a thing I just wanted to point out. It's something we could work on to kind of help you out.
it's growing through that discomfort to say, how often is this going to happen? I know couples right now who schedule it. And at first I used to laugh at them. I used to be like, nigga, you doing what? You schedule sex for Friday, right? and you know, schedule for Fridays and Mondays or Fridays and Wednesdays or just once a week or whatever it is. Initially, my reaction was, that's funny.
So
I wish I might go ahead and schedule some shit like that.
But it
And
changes, and you can speak to this too. It changes and evolves as they get older.
Well, it's not so.
When they
That's
hit
not what I was going. I was
menopause and
just
things of that nature. It changes.
Yeah. Well, I was going to the fact that what I appreciate about those couples and what they're doing is life gets in the way. And next thing you know, intimacy starts to suffer. And now there's resentment and the conversations have been had. So A, you have the conversation. Second, if you schedule it, if nothing else, it gives the person, let's say in this case, the woman, we're going to go with a typical example of the woman having a lower sex drive. It gives her time to prepare and get her mind into the right mood, etc. And it gives you that thing to look forward to for. So it's not for every couple. I personally would prefer, just to be spontaneous and not be like, it's 7 o'clock Friday. Where you at?
Chop.
Where you at? What's going on? But but I realize that it works for other couples, and listening to other people speak about it. There's podcasts that talk about marriage and successful marriages where that's actually a common thing, more than you would believe it is. And these people are having amazing relationships, amazing sex, amazing everything.
When sex becomes scheduled, it becomes a chore. You take away the butterflies, you take away the nerves, you take away all the natural emotions that come with the spontaneous action. Imagine if God told you when you were going to die and he told you when you were going to get blessed. It takes away the fun because the joy is in the journey. The joy comes from those sporadic moments where you didn't plan it, but you got it. Like that, and not just sex, everything, right? I think if you try to make it something so systematic, you lose the fun of the process.
So what usually happens in the beginning of the relationship where things are exciting? Sex is happening all the time. Everything is loving, lustful at the same time, and it's great. And then sometime into the relationship when things settle,
And they start changing.
the man is still like,
What happened to the girl that I
Yeah, what
married?
happens to all the sex? What happened to all this stuff? And it changes and things, settled
And
in.
the woman
So-
was like, damn, I was hoping you wouldn't be as horny all these years.
Exactly. That's why I married a man who's older, because I was hoping, you'd be done with this shit.
Right.
But yeah, it's interesting. What do you say to young men who are in relationships to kind of guide them towards this path that you guys have been on forever and the path that you're currently on, Justin? Something practical that you can impart on those guys.
What I tell young men is that, one, when you're young, you make a lot of decisions off of instinct, and you marry for the wrong reasons a lot of times. As Justin said, lust or looks instead of love. If you're going to get in a relationship, if you're going to get married young, you have to figure out what your deal breakers are. That will allow you to not make certain mistakes. And do your deal breakers change? Yeah. As you get older, end up in situations where you've learned from lessons, then that bar will always move because you will always grow and change. Muhammad Ali is my favorite athlete and one of my favorite individuals in the world. And he has a saying that he said, if you're the same person at 50 that you were at 20, then you wasted 30 years of your life.
Yep.
So that means you have the ability and you will evolve. So those things will change. Your goals will change. The person you are should change.
100%. Good insight, brother. Final question for you guys. What's the final words on women who throw us all into this one big old mixing bowl and say, yeah, just, stick your hand in there, yank one out, it's going to be a cheater. More than likely, it's going to be a cheater. Like, what is it?
So
what is it that
my advice to them is this, and I'll compare it to race, right? We as black people or white people or whatever nationality there are will say that there are bad people in every race, right? Or, I can speak from my perspective in the black race. We're like, I don't like white people because white people do this. But there have been some of the best things that have happened in my life through the help or prism of a white person, right? So where I'm going with that is that when you throw everybody into a box, you usually throw away a lot of good people. Treat people individually. Treat the men that you encounter individually. Don't throw them all in the box as all as cheaters, as all as this, as all as that, because that's the same as saying all white people are this, all black people are that, which we're in the situation we're in now, racially in this country or politically in this country. Where you get on an elevator, like you said in your other podcast, and because you got the stigma as a black man, some lady's clutching her purse and you got probably more money in your pocket than she got in her purse or in the bank. That's what I would say that would be my advice, is that you take every man you encounter individually. You don't encounter them all or put in your mind that they're all cheaters. But when they show you those signs that they are who you thought they were, then that's when you separate.
Makes sense.
Well, my advice to them is to look up the common denominator.
Ooh, you saying it's them?
Could be.
Could be.
Because I think we spoke about that earlier.
Yeah.
Because you attract same people all the
Correct.
time, especially if you don't change your environment or you don't do the work on yourself. You don't know your triggers. You don't know it. You're the same person, so you're going to keep attracting the same dude.
Just in a different shell.
That's it. That's all I got. Look at the common denominator.
Good one. You got anything for us, Jay?
I got two things for the women that are obviously generalizing everybody. Typically, you are what you attract, so there should be a lot of self-reflection. If that's the case and you're only attracting bad people, chances are you're probably a bad person or you like bad things. To the men, my advice is invest in cat and dog food because there's going to be a lot of lonely women that always think that way.
What? What I miss? Is it because I'm tired?
Oh, yeah, you must be. Invest in cat.
No, he didn't say he wasn't. You thought he was doing a J.D. Vance thing. That's not what he's doing.
Invest in cat and dog food because a lot of these women that think that way are going to be single for the rest of their life and have a lot of cats and a lot of dogs, my friends.
To the women.
The stock is going to be up there.
Yeah, and that's my advice to the men. Invest in cat and dog food. Yeah, let the women keep thinking that way.
So you can make some money off of their loans.
Yeah, thank you. Like, well, wait, there's always profit in the problem, baby.
They're gonna be alone for a very, very long time.
Buy a cat, die alone.
Yeah. Buy a cat, die
and
alone.
I'm a prophet.
Yeah.
Your problem, my profit.
Yeah. All right. Hey, guys, I want to thank you for being here. Leon, Delva, Justin, this was really, really insightful. When I look at social media, I see that some type of gender war has started. And really what it ends up doing is it ends up just destroying families. It ends up destroying our relationships with each other. And we're not at war. I don't know what the agenda is. I don't know who's behind it. I don't know why they're doing it that way, but everything's politicized. So one of the things that I saw that they were using as rocket fuel was men are cheaters, and there's so many memes, and all it takes is one jaded person to go ahead and take that has a platform and just to propagate that stuff. A lot of the men I know are not like that. They're in happy and solid relationships. I wanted to just not only have the two of you guys who can talk to your very long-standing relationship, that is a monogamous one, myself, and very happy with it and just being in that space. Justin, whose principle is rock solid and your integrity is rock solid. So those men do exist. They're out there. They're not rare. As you said, Delva, it's looking for the common denominator. Look for what it is about you that is making you attract the person who cannot be faithful, the person who seems to, or puts you in a position to be disrespected, or in a lot of ways threatens your life, because they put you in situations where you don't even know who's out there hating you. So there's something about that man, there's something that you're doing also that is attracting that type of person. So focus on, if you go back to the last podcast, focus on doing the work on yourself, create your list, set your standards, and work on those things. We'll catch you next time.